What's up, folks? How you doing? Andy Campbell here. Welcome. Season 8, Episode 11, another Rinkcast, Chicago Rinkcast. Here with the usual suspects, Sean Fitzgerald and Jimmy O'Malley. What's going on, guys? Hi, Sean. Sean's not feeling so well, but he's repping his Fighting Irish, who last time we were on a podcast, it looked like Penn State was going to roll them, but now your boys are in the national championship game. Congratulations.
Thank you. And, very excited for the football team. The hockey team had a good weekend. They upset Michigan in one of the two games they played in South Bend last weekend. There was actually a bunch of upsets in college hockey. Michigan State went down, and I think BC went down this past weekend too. So, but yeah, excited
Merrimack.
to be here.
To Merrimack College, my guys down the road.
So,
yeah. Well, welcome back. Good to see you, Jimmy. How you been, man?
I'm doing well. Just keeping up with Rockford. Trying to get back from a losing skid they've been on a little bit. A couple back-to-back shutouts, but back in the winning ways in our last game against, I believe, who was it? I think it was against the Stars, or was it Manitoba? I can't remember.
Gotcha. Well, hopefully they'll be back on track. Well, folks, we're here. The Hawks are about to drop the puck right now. Connor Bedard has registered his 100th point since the last time we talked. They looked pretty grim in a 5-2 loss to Calgary, though, the other night. And so, again, we're kind of in this winter malaise right now where the clock is ticking to the trade deadline and not a whole lot of positives are probably going to happen. No big milestones ahead. The Winter Classic is now behind us. So if you're feeling holiday blues and settling into the winter, the Blackhawks are feeling a lot of the same. So we're just kind of in that little rut. But there's some news to share. And one of those tidbits is what's going on with Taylor Hall. Taylor Hall the other day was interviewed post-game, or I believe it was after practice, about the trade deadline and if he was going to be in Chicago or not. And what he said was, and it was in his interview, he said, "We'll see what happens. I came into this year wanting to continue to be a Blackhawk for years to come. I don't know if that's going to be the case anymore. I will leave the door open for sure." Jimmy, is the writing on the wall? Is Taylor Hall going to be out of town before the trade deadline?
I strongly believe he'll either be out of town or that he'll finish out the season and not be offered a contract at the end of the year. At his age, at his skill set, where the team expects to be next year, I don't know exactly where he fits in. He's had a pretty decent year coming off a year where he tore his ACL.
Yeah.
And, I've actually been pretty impressed with some of the showings I've seen from him this year. But again, he just, what is he, 33 years old, I believe?
Yeah.
Yeah, 33, turns 34 in November. His window of opportunity and the Blackhawks' window of contention doesn't really match.
No,
not to say that the Blackhawks are doing this in some sort of like, oh, we want to get you a cup kind of way. It's more just we just don't have really an interest in you long term. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's traded, and if he's not traded, I wouldn't be surprised if he was not offered another contract in the summer.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. I would agree with that. Sean, are you on the same page there, or what are your thoughts on Hall in general? Obviously we all like the guy, but he's kind of a Band-Aid for the rebuild.
Yeah. Trading Taylor Hall is like a biannual tradition for teams. He's been traded 6 times, I believe. So it's not like he's not used to being traded at the deadline.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, he's a guy who has a roster spot right now, probably could help a contender. They're not going to get anything more than a lower or a middle to second round draft pick, maybe. I know Jimmy and others have other thoughts on that, but I think Taylor Hall just doesn't fit the long-term plan. No. And if they're going full on youth movement, you move Taylor Hall and then you bring up whether it's Landon Slaggert or somebody from Rockford to take those minutes and let them just play out the rest of the year. And then you go into next year with a clean slate and hopefully figure out what you're doing going forward.
Yeah, there's definitely going to be interest out there in Taylor Hall. A very seasoned vet. He will be a third or fourth liner on any team that's trying to contend at best.
Yeah.
Who knows? I mean, some of the trade partners, the Hockey News released an article today where they were talking about 5 potential suitors for Taylor Hall. The Bruins were amongst them. I think that'd be kind of comical if he ended up back in Boston, who's struggling for goals right now. New Jersey was another one that was mentioned. So, I mean, could he be going back to, somewhere where he played before? Sean's thumbs up thing just went again.
Yeah, I don't know what
There's a thumbs down this time. Someone
Was it
hates me.
Yeah, thumbs down on New Jersey.
I still don't know why.
I don't like that he won the Hart Trophy there.
Every time I see New Jersey, my
I don't
thumb
like the Hart
automatically
Trophy.
goes down.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I don't like that you won the Hart Trophy, Taylor Hall.
Los Angeles is looking for a little bit of punch. I mean, they were a team that was mentioned. The Detroit Red Wings, I don't know, if he would fit into their plan. So, I mean, those were 4 of the teams that were mentioned, the Vancouver Canucks being another one who, I mean, but it seems like the Canucks they're going to come up in every trade rumor possible after all the JT Miller, Elias Peterson, stuff was surfacing. But Taylor Hall, if he's going to be moved and you want a decent, he has to get really hot soon. I do think he's got 8 goals and 14 assists. I think, Jimmy, you had the aspirations that we could get a first rounder, or the Blackhawks could get a first round pick for Taylor Hall. It doesn't seem likely at this point unless he goes on an absolute tear. And it seems like instead of meddling with the lines, Anders Sorensen's philosophy is stick with the lines and let them get familiar to yourself. So the idea of him, moving up and playing with a Connor Bedard doesn't seem like that's going to happen either. I mean, it seems like, I don't know what the lines are tonight. Maybe, who knows? Maybe he changed them, but
no, he only moved Foligno and Nazar. Like he broke up
Okay.
the kid line. Doc, Reichel, and it's Doc, Reichel, and Foligno, and Nazar moves up to the top line with Bertuzzi and Bedard.
Okay, so Nazar's playing with Bedard. That'll be fun.
Yeah.
Well, the dad's trip, so hopefully that'll work out. But I don't know, Jimmy. You mentioned waiting to the end of the year and then just having him walk out of town. I mean, that would be too bad, I guess. But I don't like if the best you can do is a 3rd round pick. Do you think about extending Hall on the cheap? Would he even help at this point in the rebuild? It just seems like, and we've said it before, maybe bring back Donato, Hall not so much, but you also don't want to keep bringing guys back where it's not working right now.
Yeah, I get that. I think if the mentality is you're not going to re-sign him, you should definitely trade him, even if it's for a 3rd. Now, the Blackhawks don't have a 3rd round pick this year. They have 2 firsts and 2 seconds. So, I mean, it brings them back into the 2nd round. And I've been mulling this over since our last pod, talking about the admittedly meager return for Taylor Hall. And I was just thinking, last year, the Blackhawks traded up twice in the 1st round. Sure, a 3rd round pick doesn't move the needle now. But when you have 2 firsts, 2 seconds, a 3rd, and 2 fourths in the upcoming draft, then you start to think maybe they can move up in the 1st. Maybe they move up from Toronto's and get back into the late teens, early 20s instead of the mid 20s.
Yeah.
Maybe they're in a situation where they're trading with the team with the 30th pick and then trading like a 2nd and a 3rd, the 3rd they get in this Taylor Hall trade. It's still getting assets. And I know we're tired.
Good point.
And I know we're tired of just getting draft picks and having a ton. But I feel the one thing we may be ignoring is come draft day time, we may really want that guy who's in the 30 range, and we've made our first two picks of the draft, like that Van Acker of last year, and we're like, okay, we really want to get up. Hey, this 3rd round pick we got for Taylor Hall comes in handy.
Yeah. No, that's a really good point. The other thing too is
Nelson.
when you get Nelson, what's going on, buddy? I love it. Nelson Lamb, how are you, man? Wondering where the Bardo, where are you, man? It's Bardo hasn't been on that much lately, and
he's negotiating the future of.
That's Nelson's guy.
I know, big Bard guy.
What a bummer. All right, Nelson, thanks for tuning in, man. Awesome. That's amazing. The other thing too, Jimmy, and to that end, even if you get a 3rd round pick and you still stockpile picks, those are picks you can use to make bigger moves at the deadline for better NHL players, current NHL players, current assets that you will need. Because we're going to need better players for next year. Sorry, I keep saying the Blackhawks are going to need better NHL players. They're going to need to think about making some sort of splashes to acquire better talent, NHL ready talent, to have a better on ice product, period. So I don't know, and Taylor Hall aside, Ryan Donato aside, if you can get a third rounder for Ryan Donato, maybe you think about that too. I don't know. Donato is one of those guys. Anything south of that, I don't know if you even bother. Anything on Donato that you guys think, Shawnee?
Yeah, I think Donato, anything south of like I would almost say a third or second round pick if you can, like a conditional or something like that. Because Ryan Donato's been pretty versatile for this team. He's scored. He has a career high in scoring this year. He's played up and down the lines, and he's one of the few guys that brings it every night. Where some nights you just feel like this team's going through a malaise, and then you see Donato out there like on the forecheck, going in the dirty areas. And I just think if you're going to move him, you got to move him with something that has enough value to offset the value you're taking away from this team. If it's less than a second or third rounder, I would just keep him and try to re-sign him.
I would re-sign him. I mean, I don't think he's going to be that expensive. And then, we talked about this last week, and now I'm going to bring it up again because I really that Calgary game was pretty glaring. A -4 Seth Jones.
Oh, it's brutal.
I just don't, and there are people that, are on Twitter say, oh, be patient. He just got back. Sorensen, it's a new system that he's not used to. No, these are mistakes. These are that giveaway on the power play and the shorthanded goal. That's not system oriented. That's just a bad hockey play and a lazy mistake. I really think it's time for Seth Jones to get a change of scenery. This isn't working out. He's trying to do too much. He's been a liability lately. Is anyone else catching my Frisbee here? Jimmy, can they get anything from Seth Jones as a player the next few years, or do you just try to move him right now and we just hope that, phone calls are happening on his behalf?
I think the further away you get from games he's played, the better. That's why I don't think you can really trade him at the deadline. I think the best time to trade him is when he hasn't played for 2 months and you get to the draft and people are now thinking of the idea of Jones and not what you just saw on TV, Jones.
Oh, I like that. Yeah. Great take.
Yeah.
Great take. Yeah.
And with the salary cap going up, I don't know if any team is willing to bite on and having his salary for the rest of the year and have that on the cap. Maybe in the offseason when the cap goes an estimated 8 to 9 million. Mm-hmm. Maybe he becomes more enticing at that point, but at the deadline, I would be shocked. I feel like moving Seth Jones would require a lot of moving parts, a lot of work, and I don't think teams would have the time to do that in season.
It's possible. Yep.
That's also, logistically, so the Blackhawks can only retain 2 contracts. They've got 1 retained right now against the salary cap. So in the offseason, they won't have any. So then they could retain more of Seth Jones. I think you could retain half the deal or something like that. So they can retain half his deal. Right now, they're retaining $2 million from Jake McCabe. So that might be a hindrance too. Okay. And then on top of that, Seth Jones has a no movement clause. So he's going to have to decide where he wants to go. So maybe in the offseason, there'll be more suitors. There'll be more bidders. He can pick and choose where, hey, I want to be traded to, I want to go back to Columbus, or I liked a smaller market like when I was in Columbus. Because he basically said initially he didn't want to get traded out of Columbus, but they did it, and he didn't have a no movement clause, and he kind of signed the deal because they offered him a bunch of money.
Got it.
It wasn't like he wanted to be here to begin with. And he's going to have 3 years left at 9.5 after this season. So that's more palatable than, like Jimmy said, like half the season. But I think logistically retaining, they also have a buyout on the books. They have Josh Bailey's buyout on the books. So they're at 3.16 million of 667 million of just dead money, like that they're just holding on to. Next year, they don't have any of that. So they could retain half of Seth Jones's contract for the next 4 years and put that against their books that way. So I think that's another reason why the offseason makes sense.
Those are really good takes, fellas. I like it. I just, I don't mean to be so downer on Seth Jones. I mean, he is a good hockey player. I just doesn't quite seem like he's just in a mood to be a Blackhawk. I don't really know. There's not, again, this is not why he signed, or this is not, when they acquired him and he signed, this is not what the deal was. He
Right.
thought he was getting into this for other reasons, and now he's starting to get a little bit older, and he hasn't been to the playoffs in a long time. And if he stays in Chicago, won't be in the playoffs for two or three more years.
Yeah.
And so, they won't be in the playoffs next year. They probably won't be in the playoffs the year after. It's really going to take a while. So anyway, interesting. So cool. So on to Seth Jones. So let's talk about a few other things. There was a trade yesterday. Trade's key. Blackhawks made a small trade, I guess, if you will. The Blackhawks organization made a trade. You can. Isaak Phillips was traded to Winnipeg. Winnipeg? Is that where he's traded? For Dmitry Kuzmin. Isaak Phillips been up and down a little bit. There's actually been a lot of Isaak Phillips supporters online on Twitter, but a guy that's just really not in the plans. What was he a Bowman pick before?
Yeah, 2020.
Yes.
2020. Yeah, Bowman pick. And, I think he could still go on to be a decent pro hockey player, but not really in the plans. But why Kuzmin, Jimmy? What did they deal for this guy? Tell us more.
I think a big thing for Kuzmin is it's his nationality. He's a Belarusian, just like our top prospect Artem Levshinov. In fact, not only are they both Belarusians, they were both part of Team Belarus. I wrote this in my article in the 2022 IIHF World Junior Championship Division 1 tournament, where they won gold together.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a big reason. They also work out together in the summer. They train together, and they also share the same agent. So, these Belarusian buddies, man, maybe having someone from across the pond that Levshinov can be comfortable with. And, he's not half bad. He's 21 years old. I wrote in my article, he split time between ECHL and AHL since being drafted in 2021. He was a former third-round pick. He has a goal and 3 assists in 21 games this year. He's also a left-handed defenseman. So,
yeah,
Blackhawks and Rockford get a left-handed defenseman for a left-handed defenseman. I don't really think they lost anything in terms of talent and team need.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. Get someone for him to play with. It doesn't sound like he's an NHL talent.
No, he's a guy.
I think he's a guy. It's a guy for a guy, ultimately. Maybe they'll get some cups of coffee, but big time minutes in the NHL probably isn't part of their plan. Are we losing anything by losing Isaak Phillips, Shawnee?
No, not in the long sense of it. In the sense of maybe 7th defenseman in the NHL at some point this year. But no, my guy Luis Crevier, aka Creever, has passed him on the depth chart, and so he's been. Phillips was blocked behind like the Wyatt Kaisers, the Del Mastros, Korchinski. So this also frees him up for an opportunity to go play someplace else. Hope maybe he has a better path to the NHL there and can be that 7th defenseman in the NHL. But in the long scheme of things, the Hawks aren't losing anything of exponential value.
Yeah.
Got it. Another thing I want to mention that I'm going to name off just 5 left-handed defensemen in the Chicago Blackhawks organization and their age.
Yep.
Wyatt Kaiser, 22, turns 23 in July. Ethan Del Mastro, 22, turned 22 yesterday. Nolan Allen, 21, turns 22 in April.
Yeah.
Kevin Korchinski, 20, turns 21 in June. Isaak Phillips, 23, turns 24 in September. So they got rid of the oldest, young, who knows what he's going to be, left-handed defenseman. Those are 5 guys that all play the same position. Half of them play a similar way. What does Phillips do during the game that Wyatt Kaiser or Del Mastro or Nolan Allen does exponentially worse?
Right.
I would say nothing. I would say as of now, they're all about the same player. And I would say Nolan Allen especially has a higher ceiling than Lucas Phillips and maybe Del Mastro. And Kaiser is competent enough to be an NHL player right now. So, and Korchinski, high ceiling as well.
Yeah. Kaiser, again, we've said it before, say it again. Kaiser is I don't think he'll be a long-term fixture here.
No.
I view Kaiser and Phillips in the same way. Just pairing 7th defenseman guys that can fill a roster and maybe has upside if everything goes right in their development, but they're reaching the end of their development. They got to start playing.
Yeah,
I
don't know how high Kaiser's ceiling is. I just
He's
don't.
bottom pairing guy, maybe.
And I don't. When the Hawks are a playoff team, eventually will he even be on the roster at that point?
Probably not.
I doubt it. I would doubt it. Now, real quick, just what we were talking about before. A couple things just came through the Twitterverse. One was Darren Drager was talking about Seth Jones, and he indicated that the Hawks aren't actively shopping Jones. But then he wrote, but look, he's a quality defenseman. Yes, teams are calling, and they're asking about Seth Jones' availability. So it's going to have to be something that we continue to watch as Kyle Davidson puts his stamp in the rebuild. So while nothing is imminent and we can't expect that to happen, I like Jimmy's take. I like the idea that this is something that'd be more of a summertime thing, and hopefully something that makes sense for everybody involved.
And then we'll have some summertime sadness, Lana Del Rey style.
Yeah. Now the other name Frank, I don't know what just happened. I don't even know what that means. I don't know that song. I don't know. I'm aged out of Lana Del Rey.
Oh, okay.
It's a performing artist, right?
Yes.
Yeah. President before Lincoln. Is that right? Yeah. Okay. One other thing, Frank Severelli. Let's talk about this real quick. Frank Severelli, before the Blackhawks game tonight, was interviewed, and he indicated that one player that could be on the move is Lukas Reichel.
Ooh.
Now that's interesting. What could the Hawks get for Lukas Reichel? I mean, it seems like that could be kind of like a reclamation project for a reclamation project.
Probably.
I mean, it could be that a Yoki Oharu for a Nylander type trade, or
although Yoki Haru wasn't a reclamation project, I think that was just a bad deal.
Well, I don't know. That just didn't. I don't know. Two teams were bummed out about their prospects.
We're talking. No, Jeremy Colleton didn't like Yoki Haru. I think we're talking more of the guy who played on the third line for the Hawks during the Cup. He then signed with Calgary, got a bunch of money. I can't think of his name. They traded. In any event, yeah, it's a reclamation.
You talking about?
Frolik. They got Frolik for one of their top picks, and they were both reclamation projects.
Oh, fascinating. Huh. At any rate, Lukas Reichel, could Lukas Reichel be on the move? Does it make sense to trade him now? I think it probably. I don't know if he's ever going to be more with the Blackhawks than he is right now. What could you even get for him, Jimmy?
He screams the kind of guy you add into a trade to bolster, what you get. Maybe Boston. We were just talking about earlier. Maybe Boston likes Hall, and we're like, hey, we want a second round pick. We're willing to give you Reichel. We'll do Hall and Reichel for a second and fourth.
Huh.
Maybe that's how Blackhawks get better value for trading Hall. Is maybe it's not a reclamation project for reclamation, as you guys were alluding to. Maybe he's the sweetener. Maybe he's the upside. Hey, here's this 23-year-old forward that has had spurts in moments that maybe you guys can figure out, but you now get a chance to get him along with Taylor Hall, who can score goals when he's in the right area. But we're going to ask for more than what we wanted for just Hall. Instead of Hall for a third, we'll give you Hall and Reichel for a second and a couple other, maybe another draft pick or a low risk, medium reward prospect. So I see him as a sweetener. I see him more as a guy that can get you more value in the trade for a guy like Hall or Donato. But I don't know. I don't want to be a reclamation project for a reclamation project. I'm tired of it.
It could be more of a Dylan Strome, Nick Schmaltz deal.
Maybe.
Something like that.
Maybe, but still, even then, Strome had a lot of upside, and Schmaltz had established himself as a really good NHLer at that point.
I mean, if they, I don't know.
To be honest with you, if they traded Reichel and whoever took him filled the Blackhawks soda machines for 3 years, I'd be good with it.
I like it. If you package Hall and Reichel, you have to have an NHL player come back. I'm not okay with just picks.
Yeah, you've got
in that scenario, there has to be a player that comes back.
Because you're giving up 2 NHL roster spots.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're a contender, I don't know if you're doing that, or maybe you mentioned Boston. Is Boston going to give up on Fabian Lysell? who was their number one pick from a few years ago. He's 21 years old. He came up for his NHL debut last week, and then they sent him right back down. Again, that is a reclamation project, I guess, in a sense, but he would actually play for the Blackhawks.
Yeah.
And they could at least audition him. But, if Lucas Reichel is involved in a trade as a sweetener, I really hope it's more than just picks coming back. I don't know, but I don't know. I don't know what the interest would be in.
Can you guys imagine the outrage when Lucas Reichel, or if Lucas Reichel gets traded?
It'll be
online.
Yeah.
Oh, people got mad at the Isaak Phillips trade.
I know. Reichel would be like 15 times that.
Yeah.
Because people are going to say they never gave him a chance and all this other garbage, and it's all a bunch of malarkey.
Yeah. I mean, that's all. But again, but Kyle, he's not Kyle Davidson's guy. You know, it's another stand guy. So I don't really know. I don't know. I don't feel like anyone needs to apologize for that. They've given him a pretty good look at the NHL level.
Yeah, and they're playing him with younger guys now, faster guys.
And the thing is, the last two games when he played with Nazar and Doc didn't play really well with him, especially in that first game. The next game, Reichel had a pretty decent assist, but other than that, the rest of the game, that line was just existed, and that was about it.
The second game, they had a point. They had, I think they were involved in the first goal, and that was it.
Mm-hmm.
And then that was the end of that. I like Doc and Nazar together without Reichel, in my opinion, but that's just seeing it again. The Colorado game, just when Nazar got his first goal and that line just started jumping a little bit. I thought that was good, but I thought Reichel kind of brought that line down, as Ben Pope, I think, put it in a tweet, an article. The hype of the Reichel on the kids line looked better on paper than in actuality, and the excitement faded as the line actually played together. So that's Lucas Reichel in a nutshell. The excitement on paper is better than the actual result once you watch him play.
It's just not working out. It's not. If they can make a meaningful trade and include Lucas Reichel, do it.
Yeah. We can go back to November in that podcast, and I spent hours researching and brought in and went on a 10-minute tangent about where his value was, and it was on the fourth line center.
Yeah,
Matt Maroon and Craig Smith, but even now, it's kind of faded. We had what?
He's been healthy scratched. He's
had 4 points in like 20 games.
It's really not.
Yeah, a point every 5 games is even as a fourth liner. That's not going to cut it.
No,
and we can play this hypothetical of if he plays the top 6 minutes, he'll have more chances. He'll play better.
Yeah,
that's that speculation. We
saw it last season. He played on the top line last year and did nothing.
No,
he had one game where he looked like something was happening. I think it was against Dallas right before
Colorado.
Colorado. That's right.
He did well. Yeah, last year.
And then that was it.
Yeah.
He's a frustrating player.
Yeah. So Nazar is out there right now with Bedard right now, and the line is just buzzing. They've had a hell of a shift. This is Doc, Nazar, and Bedard that's out there right now.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Doc's on that line too?
Looks like it. I don't know. It's on my phone. It's minimized.
It's 1-0 Nashville.
1-0 Nashville, but they just had a really good shift. So at any rate, we'll see. We'll see if Lucas Reichel's out of town. Now, before we depart, let's talk about the draft lottery. So right now, the Blackhawks, if this NHL season ended today, they would be in the best position to get the number 1 overall pick in the NHL draft. Will they get it again? I don't know. If they do get it again, will people, cry conspiracy? Probably.
They'll probably insult.
Probably, and oh my gosh, don't let them have the number 1 pick because of
things that we won't talk about.
You're right, because
I'll get angry about people keep bringing the guy's name up.
Yeah, blah, 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 blah. At any rate, they might get the number 1 pick. Who knows if they will or if they won't. Seth Jones just took up a penalty. Awesome. But NHL Central Scouting just released their top players list, and their top North American skater is Matthew Schaefer, a defenseman. with Erie of the Ontario Hockey League. Matthew Schaefer's damn good. I mean, he's a hell of a hockey player. He was in the World Junior Tournament and got injured. And
Broke his clavicle.
Yes, broke his clavicle, so he's going to be out for some time. And so, honestly, I mean, on draft boards, he was creeping into top fives at some places. Some people might have had him 3 or 4, and now Central Scouting has him ahead of Michael Misa, who 3 or 4 weeks ago, people saying could be number 1, a player that Canada omitted from their World Junior roster for whatever reason. James Hagens of Boston College, who had a fabulous World Junior tournament, was rated 4th on Central Scouting. He was number 1 on draft boards for a long time. And then Porter Martone, a big, big winger, Canadian hockey player who's on the World Juniors. Canada World Juniors was a healthy scratch at one point by their World Junior team. Canada's World Junior team, folks, they really screwed up this year.
Yeah, Trudeau resigned over it. I'm
kidding.
Yeah. I'm kidding.
So anyway, those seem like those might be the top 4 picks. And then there's Anton Frondell. I believe he's a Swede, who Central Scouting, the European Central Scouting, has in the top 5. What if the Hawks have the number 1 pick? Jimmy, you're picking today. Who is it?
To me, it's Hagens.
Yeah.
Listen, I like Schaefer a lot. I think he's the best defenseman in this draft. If there are other teams in the first overall pick, teams in our range of bad, like Anaheim or San Jose, or who else is bad right now? Nashville. Yeah. Nashville would make perfect sense. I think if those 3 teams had a number 1 pick, I think Schaefer is really in the conversation. But for the Blackhawks, would he be the best left-handed defenseman prospect immediately the second he walks into the system?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he would be.
He has a far higher ceiling than guys like Vlasic and Korchinski. There's no denying that.
Mm-hmm.
However, I love the ceiling of Hagens. I love his play. I think he could easily be that second-line center behind Bedard. And who knows if Bedard turns out to be kind of like Patrick Kane, where he had to move him to the wing to get him to be the most productive version of himself. Hagens could easily be that first-line center of this Blackhawks team. I said in our group chat, I'm comfortably taking Hagens over Schaefer. I'm also comfortable taking Martone and Misa over Schaefer if we have a situation where we can't get either of the two. Like if we drop the 3rd and Hagens and Martone are taken before, I would take Misa over Schaefer. I love Misa's scoring touch. I love his ability to just find the open spots on the ice and score goals at will.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where the Blackhawks are now. We took Levshunov last year. We have guys like Rinzel and Vlasic and Korchinski. This is a young defensive core.
And Rinzel's stock has really gone up. Since
he's a Hobie Baker finalist.
Yeah, he's the best defenseman in the country.
Yeah,
right. Yeah,
he's insane right now.
Yeah,
and I get it.
Let's not forget North Dakota's number 1 point producer right now is Sasha Boisvert.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's real.
There's a lot to like in the Blackhawks system, both on the forward and defensive side. And I get the appeal of Schaefer, but the problem is I don't want to have that situation where a top flight draft pick of ours is stuck on the 3rd pairing. I don't want to see Vlasic or Korchinski stuck on the 3rd pairing when you and I can look him dead in the eye and be like, yeah, you can easily be top 4. It would be almost like when the Penguins had Jordan Stahl as the 3rd-line center for half a decade, and it got to the point where Jordan Stahl was like, hey, I want out. I want to play with my brother in Carolina. I want to be a top 6 center because I truly believe you drafted me 2nd overall. I truly believe I'm a number 1 center, and I'm stuck down here on the 3rd, and I don't want that situation with the defense.
Right.
Well, and what Central Scouting said, too, in their article is, like, they made Schaefer number 1, but like everybody is so close together. Like 1 through
breakaway.
1 through 3, 1 through 5 they're all super close. Mm-hmm. I think it's going to come down to, and Scott Powers read an article earlier today with I think it's Sean McIndoe. It's going to come down to need, and right now the Hawks don't have a defensive need. They have a forward need. And they need another playmaker in the forwards. And Ben Pope and other people had alluded to this before the season even started. He thought and others thought that the Hawks wouldn't. They're one offensive forward like playmaker short in their prospect pool. Now they have the opportunity to get one, whether it's Higgins or Misa. Personally, I'm taking Misa. I like Misa. I think Misa's the guy.
Yeah.
I think Higgins, the one thing that scares me about Higgins is we're going to have two smallish forwards. Like Higgins, 5'10", like 170 pounds. Misa's a little bit bigger at 6'1".
Misa's 6'1", Martone's 6'3".
Yeah, so
Martone's a big boy.
Martone's the biggest guy. So that's
Martone's
the one thing that scares me about Higgins. I'm over the smallish, like Stan Bowman was all about smallish everything, and that just scares me. But if Higgins is there and they take him, I'm not going to not like the pick. But I think forward, one of the three forwards is the Blackhawks picks. As much as Schaefer has gone off draft boards and he's wowed people, and even though he's not healthy currently, I think forward's the pick.
There's a part of me that almost hopes that, and I mean, I don't know if this is even the right way to think, but that there's a team of need that passes the Blackhawks and that has that number one overall pick and takes Schaefer, so we don't even need to have that
debate.
Have that just online silliness debate with everybody. But the thing about some of these forwards, though, and maybe not Martone, but Misa and Higgins could possibly be will be NHL ready next year.
Yes.
I mean, they will jump right into the NHL. I mean,
which is what the Hawks absolutely need.
They need it so badly. They need those players for Bedard. They need those players. And that only helps the chances of the Oliver Moores to get in sooner. That only helps the chances of the Nazars to be more productive. Right. It helps your team just get younger and quicker. It's got to be a forward. It's got to be a forward. I mean, I thought Higgins, that line that he was on in the World Junior Tournament was absolutely lights out. I mean, every time they were on the ice, it was just silliness. Watching them control the play. I haven't seen that much of Misa, but I mean, anytime you get a guy who, is 72 points in 37 games, is an assist per game player, and 2 goals under a goal per game player in the OHL, that's pretty legit. I do like the size. I like the 6'1". I love Higgins' vision. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't even think he looks down ever. I don't know. Everyone's probably seen that reel where it's watching him stick handle and he just doesn't even look down. So it's not. It can't be like, you can't have it both ways, Blackhawks fans. You can't say we need elite young forwards to play with Bedard and then be mad if they don't take Schaefer. Like, it just doesn't work that way anymore.
Right.
So
right.
Yeah. I mean, it's both a blessing and a curse to be in this situation where you can get the best of the best and it's just your choice, but it's also a curse of like, man, if we take the wrong one, we're really set back. Yeah. I don't think you could take the wrong one if you just play it smart. Like, I think even if the Blackhawks took Schaefer, they would play it smart and find ways to get that score elsewhere.
Yeah. Felino.
But, yeah, I
elite score.
Yeah,
it's pretty.
Sorry, keep going, Jimmy. Sorry.
But yeah, I was just going back and just saying, like, I don't think you could pass up on any of the 3 forwards. I think the only way, if standings stay the way they are, the only way Blackhawks take Schaefer, in my opinion, is if by some sad anti-miracle they drop all the way to 4th and those 3 forwards are all gone.
Yeah,
I'd be like, okay, take Schaefer.
Yeah, that's possible. Then you take the best player.
Yeah, then you take Schaefer. And then to me, it's like, okay, you take Schaefer.
And then you let it shake out and you figure it out from there. You don't, but well, let's hope for.
He just got called off, by the way. So
no, of course.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know much about this Anton Frondel player. I know
he's probably, in my opinion, him, and I don't know why, but he's getting like pooped on. Roger McQueen, and really? I forget the other name. There's a couple of forwards. I would say they're in the second tier of forward rankings. I would say, like, to me, it's McQueen, Frondel, Eklund. Those guys are definitely Spence. Spence is the other guy I was looking for. Those are like the second tier forwards in this draft. Those guys are like 5 through 10 in the draft rankings, while you got like Martone, Higgins, and Misa as like the top 3 forwards. Like, I would comfortably put McQueen, Frondel, and Eklund and Spence below Schaefer.
Gotcha. And then they will have another first round pick, a later pick, depending on how the standings shake out. So,
you think they go ballsy and get a goalie? That guy from Prince George, Joshua Ravensbergen.
Why?
Pretty nuts. I don't know. Comesso's not a starting goalie in the NHL. I really don't think so. I think he's a number 2.
Yeah.
Like a tandem goalie or
a 1A. Like, I mean, I'm not sure.
He's not a Hellebuck. I give you 70+ games a year.
Well, and Hellebuck playing 70+ games a year is irresponsible these days. You shouldn't be playing that many.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I mean, but I don't. The last 2 years, Guyan's been getting lit up. You gave him that 1 year and said, "Oh, USHL's a scoring league," but I mean, UMD, he's had a tough year.
Yes,
and they've watched the Michigan State goalie who they passed on and took Guyan ahead of him, which a lot of people would have
Trey
done.
Augustine.
Yeah, Trey Augustine is looking more and more like a real NHL goalie soon. And Guyan could totally pan out. I think Guyan was the more athletic, the more appealing, the more acrobatic.
Yeah. I think the thing with Guyan, it was always understood that he was going to be a long-term thing.
Yeah.
But even then, it's like, where's the improvement while you're in college? You're just hoping this year is kind of like the Blackhawks' current year, and it's just a bad year. You can sweep
He's only played 12 games this year. It's not like he's.
I mean, we have a long way to go. Way to go.
Yeah, he's in a tough situation in Duluth where they play 3 goaltenders, sometimes even 4. And they'll rotate them in. So it might just be a situation where he just can't get a rhythm.
Yeah. I mean, his save percentage is.
He's not Wooter Peters yet. All right. So we're good.
It's not who?
Wooter Peters.
Wooter Peters. Yeah. But I think their other goalie, UMD seems to be deferring to Clayton Knapp. Their 21-year-old who's had some really good games this year.
Yeah. He played both games against Michigan State over the weekend.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So we'll see. Again, that if you're a freshman in college, and you're a goalie, a long time before we know what's going on. I think I'm also just curious when the Hawks sign some of these college kids that are going to be coming out, the Ryan Greens of the world, the Rinzels, the Oliver Moores, who are going to sign probably this spring, where those guys fit in. Not as much this year, but where they fit in come training camp and how they look and how fast it's going to be for them to be NHL ready. Rinzel, defenseman, probably be a little while. Or maybe, I mean, at the rate that he's improved, though. I mean, I don't.
He might only year might need the Alex Vlasic, like 1 year at Rockford and be ready to go.
A tall, skinny high school kid when they drafted him.
He was 17.
Yeah, late in the first round, and now he's a beast.
Yeah.
And he is, I mean, he's one of the best players in college hockey, period. I mean, Jimmy, as you said, if the award was, being determined right now, he would be a Hobey Baker finalist.
Yeah. I think he could win it.
Yeah. Very well.
People are saying he's going to be, and he could be a finalist.
Yeah.
Awesome. Minnesota plays Notre Dame this weekend in St. Paul. So hopefully the games will be on. They probably will be in Big Ten Plus or something, so I won't get to watch them. But hopefully we'll get to see Sammy Rinzel live on TV soon.
Awesome. Well, any parting shots before we carry on and try to see if the Hawks can get it together tonight? And
I mean, I guess I can end on some good news. Evgeny Malkin.
Good news is great.
Good news is great. Evgeny Malkin, after sadly having his house broken into, his 3 Stanley Cup championship rings were found in his house.
Oh, nice. That's awesome.
He did not lose them, thankfully. That's sad. It was a sad situation, but glad to see he retained his rings.
Yes. That's excellent. That is good news. Well, awesome. Well, go Hawks. We'll be back. We'll have a little bit more regularity to our podcast, where we'll be back. We're hopefully targeting more Tuesday nights. Next week we might be Wednesday, but at any rate, we'll have more regularity. Hopefully we'll have more to talk about with the Chicago Blackhawks. We're in a little bit of a winter malaise, as we said earlier. And But hey, I do think that, as we kind of get into the dog days of the winter and you start seeing some of the prospects signing and, I don't know, it'll be interesting going into the summer what this whole operation looks like.
Yeah, especially because some of the prospects can sign and they'll play right away. They'll just burn their ELC first years and just play right away.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, again, like I don't know what a Ryan. I do like Ryan Green a lot. I'm sorry, I know we're just about to break and now we're going back. But I do like Ryan Green's game a lot. It is a consistent hockey game. Now, the last time I went off on a Blackhawks prospect and said, "Watch out, folks! This kid's going to turn into the real deal," when no one else was paying attention, I was helplessly wrong. So I'm not going to make any of those.
Alec Regula.
Oops, missed it. But I just he plays a 60-foot hockey game, and I don't know as a center, and he's a natural center, and he's always been a center. Like he will be a center in the NHL. He will probably be a third, fourth line center, but I don't know how many players that they have as refined about saying I play in all zones as he looks to be. Will 100%. He pan out? I don't know, but I'm so curious when they sign Green. I mean, he's a point per game player on BU. He's not that flashy. Oh my God, he's going to score 1 million goals. But I mean, he kind of feels like a David Boland-ish. I know comparisons are really dangerous, but I don't know. I don't know why I just ended with Ryan Green, but I decided
to. Former Blackhawk and current Detroit Red Wing, Patrick Kane had a goal in the second period for them. And they lead the Panthers 3-2. And the second intermission, I was watching that before we came on. Shout out and good luck to the Notre Dame Fighting Irish against Ohio State on Monday. Jimmy and I will not be friends that day because he's rooting for Ohio State. So
yeah, I'm married into the Ohio State.
Yeah, with family in Ann Arbor, this game is my nightmare. This game is my absolute nightmare. So I just hope it is I hope it's a thriller. I hope it's 7 or 8 overtimes. I hope it's an instant classic, no matter who wins.
I hope Ryan Day and Freeman just fight in the middle of the field.
Ryan Day would lose that fight.
Oh, it would be great though. It'd be much watched.
I think Ryan Day is more apt to fight Lou Holtz than anybody else. But
yeah.
I want to know where Lou Holtz is right now.
Yeah. Well, all right. Well, let's hope for a good second period for the Hawks. They can get back in this game tonight. And until next time, folks, Andy Campbell, Sean Fitzgerald, Jimmy O'Malley. Take care, everyone, and we'll see you later.